Getting stopped or arrested by the police. Getting stopped or arrested. Introduction. Many people watch cops on patrol or locked up on TV or watch fiction cop shows but still don't know their rights and still don't know what jail is really like or what a trial is really like. Most criminal trials are a zoo. They bus all the cons in or do it by video. The Crown prosecutor and the legal aid attorney, if there is one, are making deals in court while the judge sits there. Quite often there is no legal aid lawyer. The prosecutor is just making deals. He or she says plead guilty and you get this really good deal. Almost every court in the land is swamped with cases because cops are arrest crazy, especially with all those drug laws and prostitution laws on the books. I spent time in jail. Nobody ever bothered me. People are looking for friends in jail. People don't want to get in trouble in jail. It's really low-key. Nobody wants hassles. About your rights on the street. A cop needs probable cause to stop you. A cop has no right to stop you if you are minding your own business. They try to say you are acting suspiciously. You simply say you have no probable cause, then ask if you are being arrested. When they say you are acting suspiciously, you say no, I'm not, have a nice day and walk away. Fight for your rights. Don't let the country degenerate into a police state. If some cop hassles you, tell him you're walking away or tell him you want to talk to his sergeant or commanding officer right now. You have general rights on the street when dealing with law enforcement. If you get arrested, keep quiet. When your public lawyer comes, they will make a deal with the prosecutor. It's the only way they can get through all those arrests every single day. Chapter 1. Deal with the law. 1. Police duty to protect people. In the book Dial 911 and Die, attorney Richard W. Stevens writes, "It was the most shocking thing I learned in law school. I was studying torts in my first year at the University of San Diego School of Law, when I came upon the case of Hartzler v. City of San Jose. In that case I discovered the secret truth: the government owes no duty to protect individual citizens from criminal attack. Not only did the California courts hold to that rule, the California legislature had enacted a statute to make sure the courts couldn't change the rule." Stevens cites laws and cases for every state plus Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and Canada that state if the police fail to protect you, even through incompetence and negligence, you can't sue them for it. Authorities have no duty to protect individuals. In 18 states, citizens have successfully sued over failure to protect, but only in limited special circumstances. In its decision of DeShaney v. Winnebago County Department of Social Services, Stevens writes, "The U.S. Supreme Court declared that the Constitution does not impose a duty on the state and local governments to protect the citizens from criminal harm." Getting stopped by the cops. Don't attract attention to yourself. If you're stopped by the police, you can't win. In all likelihood, there's a camera on you from the police car. Be humble, polite, and respectful. Never badmouth a police officer. Stay calm and cooperative. Keep your hands where they can see them. Don't make sudden movements. Ask why you are being stopped. The golden rule of getting stopped by a cop anywhere is that you will most likely be caught off guard and be intimidated. It might happen so quickly that you will have no time to use the strategy you have thought up beforehand. Try to be cooperative to a point. They will ask for ID and run a warrants check. They go trolling for random people to try to catch people with warrants. Expect it a few times when you're young. Ask him or her if you are being arrested or if he or she has a probable cause to stop you. If they don't, you used to have a right to walk away, but nowadays they got these new laws and a new police state attitude. It's like you mess with a cop, you're screwed even if you're within your rights. If they hassle you beyond 15 minutes, tell them if they proceed, you will file a harassment civil lawsuit or at least a complaint. Or tell the cop you refuse to speak to him. You want to talk to his boss. There is always one cop on staff who's the boss for every shift. There are different titles for him. He could be called the duty officer, duty sergeant, or the training officer. In a nutshell, A cop can stop anyone and ask questions, but you don't have to answer unless you're being detained for the investigation of a crime. In order to be detained, a cop has to have either some suspicion, which could be based on almost anything, even something as flimsy as you standing in one spot casing a joint out, or probable cause, which is definite, objective evidence that you're involved in a crime, such as information from an informant, the smell of drugs coming from your home, an eyewitness who saw you do something, or other incriminating things like blood all over your shirt after a knife murder or running away from the scene of a nearby crime. Cops generally can't detain you for more than 90 minutes while they investigate a situation, then they have to cut you loose or arrest you. An exception to this is if you swallow something. They can keep you up to 48 hours until it's expelled out the back end. They have to have a definite charge to arrest you. They just can't throw you in jail for suspicion of something, although many rogue cops can manufacture cheap charges like disturbing the peace, interfering with a police officer, or resisting arrest. Realize that many cops are on some kind of ego trip and they got power over you when they stop you, so your best bet is to be as polite as possible, cooperate, and try to keep it as businesslike as possible. Don't say stupid things to try to socialize. Don't make it a personal confrontation. Make it as polite and businesslike as possible. Don't try to be his buddy. He will resent you for the cheap ploy. Cops live on bluff. If a cop stops you, he doesn't know you from Joe Blow, so he's checking you out, wondering if you got drugs or warrants. This is his basic life. The cop is reading you to determine if you're a crook. Your best bet is to act cool, like you're not a crook, you're a good guy who knows what's going on. Don't be arrogant about it. Just let it be known that you're not a pushover. Cops rely on 95% of the population being ignorant about their rights. When they see that you're one of the few who knows his rights, they will back off. Without getting personal, if a cop hassles you, you have to let him know you're innocent, that he's wrong, that you will file a complaint or a case against him, or go to the media and put doubt in his mind so that he backs down and lets you off with a warning because he wants you to go away. If a cop gets bad press, he's turkey to his cop buddies because it's all peer pressure with them, so that's your weapon against him. Tell him you will give him so much bad press he will wish he had let you go. This could backfire. Only do it if you're going down anyway and you got nothing left to lose. If a cop asks you something and you hesitate or give him a phony answer which he's trained to detect, he will throw the book at you just to try to get you back. If you pause before answering, he knows you're making it up as you go along, or he will ask you a question then ask you another version of the same question 5 minutes later to try to catch you in a lie. If you give him a phony name, he will change the first name and throw you back the last name you gave him to see if you balk at it. They are looking to see if you stall, which means you're making up the story as you go along, stumbling, contradicting yourself. Cops are trained to arrest people on minor charges and throw them in jail because they know a fingerprint check will often yield a warrant. If you're clean, it's best to carry some kind of ID on you when you go anywhere, because if a cop confronts you and you got no ID, he will throw your ass in jail on a minor charge just to check out your true identity. Although there is no law that says you have to carry ID on you, I've had at least one cop try to give me the once-over when I told him I had no ID on me. He tried to make me feel like a buffoon, saying most normal people carry ID. Here I was on my bike on a hot day. This guy stops me for something silly. I can't remember what it was for, but he ran the name I gave him through his local crime database. Cops feel great when they catch somebody with a warrant just on random chance. I want you to understand that cops think like this. It's all a game to them. How many punks can I catch today? There are literally millions of people in this country with warrants, most of them traffic. Cops love to catch warrant suspects, which is why they hassle people for minor things and hope to luck in one, especially a felony. Pay all your traffic tickets and fines so that when a cop stops you and does a computer check, no warrants come up. If you don't settle it, it will usually come up at the worst time, like when you're going to the airport to go to Hawaii on vacation. Don't carry drugs or guns or even knives around. Make sure whatever car you're driving is legal with all lights operational. Cops aren't allowed to search a vehicle unless you give them consent. They can only search you and what's in your immediate control, not the trunk or a locked box. Keep the key hidden so if they arrest you, they don't use the key on your keyring to illegally open it. If they arrest you and confiscate the car as inventory, they aren't allowed to open it. You will claim it back when you're released. If they see illegal things in plain view, they're allowed to search. They may bring a dog to do a sniff test, but the truth is that drug residue is everywhere, especially on money passed through innocent day-to-day transactions. If you have a hatchback and want privacy, the solution is to go to an army surplus store, buy a solid trunk, then get it bolted to the walls and the floor and lock it. A cop is not allowed in there. If you want more privacy, get a locked briefcase. If you're serious, carry a recorder like on your cell phone to tape interactions with the cops. Don't give the cops any reason to stop you. Don't even make eye contact with cops if on foot or in a vehicle. If a cop sees you looking at him nervously, he knows you're nervous about something. Don't look. Ignore. Keep going as smoothly as possible. A cop always looks for nervousness. It's a tip-off that you're hiding something. This is a big one. As soon as a cop stops you, he wants to see how nervous you are. Act like you're playing his game, say sir, and don't volunteer anything. Try to look clean-cut. When talking to a cop, don't look into his eyes too much even if he's wearing sunglasses. Looking down indicates submissiveness, great to butter up a cop's ego. Wear your seatbelt even if it looks dinky. Don't put controversial bumper stickers on your vehicle. Don't even put anti-drug bumper stickers on your vehicle. They look too obvious and attract attention. Try to blend in with a plain vehicle as opposed to a flashy one with loud music. All that stuff about probable cause is bunk. Cops stop anyone they feel like stopping and just say you were weaving or made a lane change without using the blinkers. If they're lying, you can't prove it. If they have a video cam, they can just say they observed you from down the road several hundred feet. Clean out your car to get rid of anything suspicious like beer bottles or dope roaches on the floor. Try to act like either college boy or family man with either a textbook or a child's toy on the floor of the front seat. Try to avoid violating the law. Stop and think before you act. If you're in doubt about the legality of an act, ask. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but use it anyway if confronted. Try to stay away from suspicious places and circumstances. If you're a clean-cut white guy driving around the ghetto on Friday or Saturday night, a cop knows you're either looking for dope or poontang. Watch the company you keep. You can easily be arrested if you're with someone who commits a crime. It all depends on the crime and the circumstances. We're not talking about your guilt or innocence or right from wrong. We're talking about how not to get arrested in the first place, thereby avoiding fees to attorneys, bail bond agents, loss of time on your job or even loss of your job. As long as you're not interfering with law enforcement, you're allowed to videotape any proceedings out in public that you want. Cops can't stop you. Cops with dogs sometimes have a bag of grass in their pockets which they put their hand in to get the scent, then tap the trunk of the car with it so that the dog alerts to the scent. Stopped by police websites. aclu.org/policepractices/policepractices.cfm, know your rights. aclu.org/police/gen. apd.cjis20.org/stopped_by_the_police.htm. bannockburn.org/police/faqs/stop.asp. blackpolice.org/stopped.html. ci.renton.wa.us/police/stopped.htm. citizendefense-training.com/stopped_by_the_police.htm. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/police_stop, _search, _underscore detention_and_the_United_Kingdom. expertlaw.com/libraries/criminal/police_stops.html. gustytislaw.com/articles/stopped_police.html. lycaeum.org/war/stop.html public.findlaw.com/traffic-ticket-violation-law/traffic-stop-faq.html torontopolice.on.ca/when stopped townsunited.com/what-toto-when stopped2.pdf Don't trust cops if you're guilty. I know that on TV cops are portrayed as heroes. Some probably are, but most cops spend most days hassling productive citizens for traffic tickets and other minor things. Cops will lie through their teeth to try to scare you. It's an ego trip for some of them to get immediate power over people. I've been stopped several times before, abused for no reason, treated like a criminal, and have been given about a dozen really stupid traffic tickets in my life, so it's no wonder why I think cops are overrated. Cop-tink/how cops think. Cops can help you if something happens. An entire force can descend on a scene in a matter of a minute or two in case of an emergency, but they're not necessarily good guys all the time. I believe that much of the traffic ticket writing is a money grab, not done to protect the public for safety's sake, but to put money into the coffers of the local justice department. A cop might help you if a crime's been committed against you, but don't paint them all by the same benevolent brush. On TV, they all put their best faces forward for the camera and shows portray them as a bunch of heroes, but in real life, they're generally a jaded, cynical bunch with a war mentality. Them against the public, and to all cops, everybody is a potential suspect/criminal. There might be the odd good one in the bunch, but after a while on the job, they all get cop-tink, this attitude that it's them against the public, and their egos are so hooked on machismo because of the TV/movie cop mentality that they feel they got to get one up on the citizen in every situation. The morale to the story is don't ever trust cops, no matter how sympathetic they might seem to you. That's their game. Treat you like a buddy, so you talk. They talk to you like a buddy to catch you off guard, then they ask if they can check your car out, which is illegal without a search warrant unless they see a violation in plain view like dope, a gun, or a dead body. I saw one cop on TV use this technique. He talked to the guy, made him relax, looked at his license, then said, "Okay, buddy, have a good day," turned around, walked about 4 paces, then turned around and said, "Oh yeah, do you mind if I check your trunk real quick?" He caught the guy off guard. It was a choreographed method, since I saw it used at least 3 times. Cops have a legal right to lie to you during their interrogation, and if you're stupid enough to believe them and talk, then you're a sucker. Firstly, you're under no obligation to talk. They will try to say it will go easier on you if you talk, but they just file the charges. It's the district attorney who decides if those charges are too harsh and won't stick, who bumps them down into lower charges as a rule. Sometimes the cops can charge you on a lower charge than they could, but often they don't. They just pile the charges on, leave it for the DA to investigate. Cops routinely lie to get you to cough up the truth, like tell you that you failed a lie detector test when you passed, or it was inconclusive, tell you that one of your buddies ratted on you when he didn't, or tell you that someone saw you when they didn't, and if you're the sucker who decides to implicate yourself by making a statement in the mistaken belief that they will give you a break for coughing it up, they will just laugh at you and have contempt because you were so stupid you fell for their low-level tricks. My advice is to give them your name, address and SSN, and that's it. If you lie, they will either keep you until they verify your identity through some ID or someone in the community it's you, or if you've got a criminal record, chances are they will find your true identity when they run your prints through NCIC, National Crime Information Center, which is a database for most felony convictions and some misdemeanor convictions in the country, although some people slip through the cracks sometimes and get away, but not very often. Despite all the positive propaganda that's put out about cops, based on my own experiences of getting stopped for trivial things, my conclusion is that many of them develop an attitude somewhat like the character in Vincent Hugo's novel Les Miserables, who saw the world only in terms of the law, and anyone who broke it regardless of its triviality or circumstance had to be punished for it. Cop alienation from the public. Cops get a lot of alienation from the public because their job is to hassle people and lock them up. Some are good guys doing a job, but many are jerks either because they were jerks before they got on the force and now have some artificial power over people, or time on the job makes them see all people as potential suspects. As a young guy in college, I hung out with a guy whose father was the local police chief. He told me that he'd never be a cop because they all develop cynical, negative outlooks after years on the job. They become jaded, seeing only the negative in people, looking for the suspect in everyone. Because of the contempt they receive from the public at large, they develop an alienated view. It's kind of like the war between them and everyone else, and if they're further mentally ill with problems and stress in other parts of their lives, they can easily take it out on the public by writing out tickets and hassling decent people for stupid things like possession of small amounts of drugs, jaywalking, hanging out in public, sleeping in a park, or wearing a MP3 player on a bike. And then there's the whole macho image that a lot of cops are hooked on, thinking they're Joe Serpico or Dirty Harry. Some are good, reasonable guys collecting a paycheck, doing a tough job, but many really are rats. What you see on the TV shows is the cops on their best behavior because the camera is on them. They usually get there long after the crime is committed and the crook is long gone. We hear about the major crimes on TV, but the typical cop's day is spent giving out tickets and harassing ordinary citizens for minor things. A cop might be a great guy off the job, but wearing the badge, watch out. They got power over you and they will use it. When they talk to you, they're trying to figure out your angle in the situation as a possible suspect, testing you to try to catch you in a lie. Sure, there are a few good ones there, especially the older ones who have seen it all and know that the trivial stuff is bogus, but by and large, cops have an egotistical mentality based on power over the public at large. The bottom line is, don't trust cops, and if you are ever in a situation, don't talk to them too much because they will use it against you. If you have to call them, hide anything illegal you might have laying around first. I was watching the TV show Cops and a guy told the cop he had a gun hidden in the ceiling. The cop never would have found it, but the guy, like many ignorant people out there, erroneously thought that by cooperating, the cop would cut him a break. The cop found a bit of dope up there with the gun, so he arrested all three in the apartment for endangering their baby because of the drugs they had. Don't ever trust cops. They're not your buddies, even though they pretend to be, to try to lead you on. They use dirty tricks all the time to get information out of you, to offer you a deal, to get into your house, or to consent to a search. If you consent to a search, you're giving the cop power to bust you if he finds something. He won't go easy on you, he will bust you, and that will be it. They often go beyond the legal bounds of a gray area after arrest, or beyond the bounds of a search warrant to check everything. They create excuses like saying they entered a property because they feared the safety of a person in there. They separate people, then falsely claim that one has already spilled the beans and offer to go easy if you confess now. They claim to have confidential informants, thus justifying search warrants when they really don't. They play on naive people's belief that the system is just and fair and try to use guilt that confession is good for the soul. Then there's entrapment, where they actively help a person commit a crime. My friend was walking down the street one night minding his own business. They called him over, didn't like the look of his eyes, so they arrested him for public intoxication, and he spent about 3 days in jail until urine tests came back negative. I don't understand how they bust people for small amounts of recreational drugs. Drugs are simply entertainment enhancements used to have fun. A person who uses them is not a real criminal, but judging from what I see on cop TV shows, the way they manhandle decent people just because they have a bit of drugs on them is ludicrous. These people aren't crooks, they're minding their own business, yet cops think they're doing a great thing when they bust some guy for a few grams of coke, then seize his car, thereby screwing his life up big time, all for a bit of dope. It's archaic. I've known friends locked up for 10 to 30 days for possession of small amounts of cocaine. They must have some kind of informal quota system where they think that by piling up the arrests, they will get promoted faster. I know for a fact that the number of arrests every cop makes per year goes on his record, so they're playing that numbers game with you, and they don't care how harmless you are, they will arrest you anyway. Increasingly these days, the mindset of cops, police forces, and other federal agencies is that of business. They're looking for people to arrest so that they can seize their cars and property, then some of the money goes into their budget and they can buy nice things like a rec room at the station or all take a trip to a police convention, all in the guise of work. This is fact. Cops are looking for people to arrest that they can profit from, usually people with drugs, even small amounts. In some states, as little as a gram of cocaine is enough to get a brand new car taken away, then the cops themselves use it on the job and drive it home, in effect owning it, except that now, it belongs to the police force. My warning is to never ever transport even small amounts of drugs in your vehicle unless you plan to lose it. Another major source of revenue is traffic tickets. If the speed limit was suddenly eliminated in this country like it is on the autobahns in Germany, the accident rate would not go up. Germany has 25% the rate of traffic accidents that we do, proportionate to population. People intuitively drive at safe speeds because they want to stay alive. Anybody can easily keep a vehicle in control up to about 85 miles per hour, yet why is the speed limit so low? So cops can make money. That's the bottom line. Speeding at over 25 miles per hour over the posted speed limit is called reckless driving, is usually quite expensive and could even be a criminal offense in some situations. If you break traffic laws, they will get you sooner or later, even if they're completely safe, like coming to a partial stop at an empty intersection and not stopping completely. Cops hide out in nearby parking lots at night looking for these things. Consent to search/probable cause. Consent searches are searches made by the police without a search warrant, based on the consent of the individual whose person or property is being searched. Consent forms are not required to obtain legal warrantless consent searches, but they are sometimes used. If an individual gives oral consent then refuses to sign such a form, he or she should orally withdraw consent immediately. The main reason people consent to searches is because they don't know any better. Many people consent to searches because they want the cop to leave as quickly as possible. If you've got something to hide and the cop asks to search your vehicle or whatever, refuse, then he might threaten you with a search warrant, whereupon you simply tell him that he needs probable cause of a crime before he can get one and you're still innocent, so you win. Ask him if he's arresting you, and when he says no, say "Have a nice day, officer," and leave. Cops like to ask if they can search because they're on fishing expeditions. You can turn it around on them by asking what they're searching for. They don't want to come right out and say drugs, so they might back off if you make them look crude and ill-mannered. If a cop asks you a question and you're walking down the street minding your own business, you're not obligated to answer. If you want to be a smart ass, ask if you're being arrested, and when he says no, walk away. Cops are allowed to stop anyone and ask a question, but you don't have to answer with anything meaningful. You're allowed to walk away unless you're under arrest. Righteous indignation works, acting as though this big mean cop is hassling little old you for no just cause. It's all about three basic levels of police escalation. 1. Less than reasonable articulate suspicion. A cop can stop anyone and ask questions based on suspicion or hunches, but he can't search you unless it's a border search. 2. Reasonable articulate suspicion. If you appear suspicious by hanging out in a drug area, by casing a joint out, etc., the cop can stop you, question you, and detain you for about up to an hour to determine if you are involved in a crime. They're allowed a Terry frisk, a cursory search for weapons, but if you consent or don't object, they often check everything: your pockets, underwear, mouth, everything. Some local laws require that you show ID, but they're ultimately unconstitutional and will be defeated in court. 3. Probable cause info. The cop has some concrete evidence, either the word of a trusted informant, the smell of drugs, the word of a witness, the view of drugs in your possession, etc., that makes him think you were involved in a crime, so he can detain you, cuff you, arrest you, Mirandize you, and search you and the area around you, your grabbable area. Before the cops can probe your body with a needle for blood tests or an orifice for drugs, they must have some evidence that a relevant crime has been committed. There must be a warrant or an emergency situation, and it must be a reasonable procedure, such as not choking a subject to get him to throw up the drugs he swallowed, which some rogue cops have done in the past. Simply don't give yourself away by admitting to something or waving contraband around like having a joint on your ear or a bag of dope sticking out of your pockets. You don't have to show ID unless you're being arrested. The cop can't frisk you unless he's got suspicion that you committed a crime, but cops have the power to preserve their safety, so they can use that leverage to frisk whomever they want, merely saying that they believe you to be a threat to their safety. If you're on foot, a cop has a harder time arresting you than if you're in a car, because in a car, they have all kinds of phony reasons to stop and hassle you. So if you're on foot and a cop hassles you, don't go straight to your car where he can see you and stop you for some phony reason. Cops can stop you based on suspicion of something, but unless they get some information or evidence, they don't have any probable cause to search your car or house or arrest you. They can detain you while they investigate the scene of a crime, but after that, they either have to arrest you or let you go. They can't detain you after the investigation without a probable cause reason. A detention must be based on reasonable articulable suspicion/RAS that you were doing something illegal. This could be almost anything that a cop deems as suspicious and nervous, like you were looking at him nervously, started to run, were wearing a disguise, were near the scene of a crime, were acting crazy, information from an informant, known criminal, etc. A cop can determine any unusual behavior to be suspicious, like even standing somewhere too long looking like you were casing something out. The cop may put you in the back of his car or cuff you during a detention, but he can't ask for ID unless he arrests you and reads you your Miranda rights. They may frisk you for their safety, then conduct their investigation by talking to people, looking around, etc., and they may bring eyewitnesses down to identify you as the possible culprit. A detention shouldn't last for longer than 60 minutes. You don't have to answer questions during a detention, although if you don't, this will raise suspicions. If there's no probable cause, they cut you loose to go. Cops rarely detain law-abiding looking types because they fear a complaint or lawsuit. They detain you if you look like you're up to something, then if they don't find anything, you're free to go. You might be detained if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, like at the site of a crime, but just play it cool and they will release you soon enough if you're innocent. If you're detained, keep asking the cop if you're free to go and tell him you're innocent and wanna go home. If a cop stops you and asks to look in your knapsack, tell him it's personal property. Don't let him look and ask if you're being detained, then ask him if you're free to go, and that's it. Cops know the law and know when they're up against an informed smartass, and they don't need the hassle. If he wants to detain you, pull out your cell phone recorder, start recording, and ask what the reasonable articulate suspicion for stopping you is. If a cop detains you for an invalid RAS, you can sue him for unlawful restraint. If a cop detains you but doesn't arrest you, the more you talk, the more it can be used against you if you are later arrested. Your best bet is not be angry but level-headed, indignant, and keep asking, "Am I free to go?" Consent to search websites. allbusiness.com/legal/3506361.html, Kansas Supreme Court rules police needed warrant to search laptop. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/consent_searches. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/legal_challenges_NSA_in_the_United_States. Findarticles.com/p/articles/me_m219/4/is_2_72/AI_982536559, search warrant law. Police1.com/writers/columnists/Quinlan/articles/94526. writ.news.findlaw.com/colb/200505118.html. Probable cause websites. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution covers probable cause. caselaw.lp.findlaw.com/data/constitution/amendment 04. criminal-law-lawyers-terms/probable-cause.html. definitions.uslegal.com/c/certificate-of-probable-cause en.wikipedia.org/wiki/probable_cause. lectlaw.com/def2/p089.htm, legal definition of probable cause. legalmatch.com/law-library/article/probable-cause-searches.html, find probable cause lawyers and attorneys in your area. probablecause.org. Search warrant/search and seizure. Amendment 4. Right of search and seizure regulated. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures. With very few exceptions, the police must obtain a warrant which shows probable cause of criminal activity in a specific location from a judge before they're allowed to enter anyone's property. The police are supposed to knock and enter peacefully and can only use forceful methods if they believe there could be violence at the location. Police have the right of controlled delivery, that is that if they find something illegal like contraband, they can follow it through to its conclusion and search the immediate area to solve the crime and arrest the proper criminals. The big thing about law is that cops routinely step over the line, but most people don't know the law or their rights, so they let them. People often stupidly give cops the consent to search their property. If you know your rights are being violated, you should either speak up or file a complaint with assistance from a competent, sympathetic lawyer. If you don't, the police will walk all over you to get whatever evidence they need, then they will screw you by arresting you. Cops often fool people into thinking that if you volunteer information, they will help you, but often after you help them, they turn around and arrest you. During the conduct of the warrant search, the police are not allowed to search areas not specifically covered by the warrant unless the owner consents to it or they have probable cause that the area is used for criminal activity. If you allow the police to search your home without a warrant, they must stop when you tell them to. The three factors of a search warrant are scope, extent, time. Make sure these are all specifically defined before you allow a legal search. If the police violate one of these provisions, tell your lawyer about it. Cops can't search everything, only what the search warrant says. Cops have plain view protection. They can get you for whatever they see in plain view in the course of normal business, doing legitimate police work with a reasonable justification for being there. They can search abandoned property left in public places. According to the law of curtilage, they can spy on you on your own property as long as they're outside the immediate area of your dwelling. They can do surveillance by plane. They can search public school lockers. If a police dog alerts to anything in a public place, the police have probable cause to search it, which is bad because police can often leave a scent on anything by spreading their hands over it, which they set up by rubbing marijuana in them. They can search vehicles at the border or board boats on the water. There are several exceptions to the warrant requirement. Cops can enter property if it's a medical type emergency situation called exigency to protect life and render aid. If they're chasing a fleeing suspect, they can go after him into dwellings. This is called exigencies with cause to suspect crime. The cop doesn't have time to get a warrant, so he arrests the suspect based on probable cause in a crime in progress. With automobile searches, there are two criteria before they're legally allowed to search. The car was mobile, in motion. They have probable cause of a crime. Probable cause can be as simple as a dog alerting on a part of the car. Cops often do surveillance on criminals at their homes and get them when they put something in their cars and drive away. If you give cops consent to search, they may do so and use whatever they find against you. Cops are emotionless. They don't assume you're cutting them a break if you give them consent to search. They just assume you're a dummy and will try to screw you. If they find something illegal, they will arrest you. The law is worded such that only the person with full control authority of the premises can give consent. A landlord can't give consent for a tenant's house, a child can't give consent for a parent's home, a hotel manager can't give consent for a rented hotel room nor an employee over a workplace managed by someone else. Cops will often try to get a third party to let them in somewhere, but if that person doesn't have full authority, it's illegal on their part, so you can sue them if this happens. Many heavily regulated and licensed businesses are subject to either or both administrative searches and searches of the property as a matter of routine. Many people on probation or parole give consent that their property can be searched at any time. The only places that require a search warrant are a home, a locked container in a car, and possibly a business that the government can't get into to do a routine search, i.e., an unregulated business. To get a search warrant, a cop must have probable cause of a crime, such as he arrests you in your car and finds some drugs, so he suspects you have drugs at home. He then fills out paperwork and goes to a judge or calls him on the phone, whereupon the judge reads it over and concludes it's sound, then signs it, whereupon the search warrant is operational. The search warrant must specifically state what he's looking for. If it's drugs and he finds illegal exotic animals in the house, the defendant's lawyer might be able to argue that the search warrant wasn't specifically looking for the animals, so his constitutional rights were violated. In a search incident to lawful arrest, cops can basically look through what they want in your immediate, grabbable area. They generally can't look in locked containers without a warrant unless it specifically relates to the crime. You have to grin and bear this violation of your life. An inventory search is done when you're arrested or your car impounded. Cops remove your property and put it into storage until you're released. It's another way for them to snoop. An administrative search can be conducted on any licensed business, at federal facilities like entrances to federal buildings or military bases, and a few other places. A closed or locked container like a trunk is generally off limits unless a cop can open it by themselves with their own ingenuity in the course of a search, or they have probable cause and get a search warrant. The Fourth and Fifth Amendments protect the individual's papers and records and his right to not testify against himself, so his papers are somewhat protected, but the government can take them in the course of an investigation either by subpoena or outright seizure via a judicial search warrant on the condition that they must return them after the investigation is over. There are several privileged communication relationships within society. For example, spouses can't be forced to testify against one another, children-parent relationships, clergy-penitent relationships, lawyer-client, doctor-patient and therapist-client relationships. However, there are exceptions, such as when the threat of a crime that will harm another seems imminent. The information exchanged in these relationships is generally considered private and confidential, but these professionals will often sacrifice their clients to win favor or save their butts from prosecution or blackmail, so don't trust any professional even if it supposedly is in confidence. Every person has the right to not incriminate himself, but if a person refuses to testify against another in a trial, the court can hold him in contempt of court and either fine him or send him to jail until he cooperates. Certain papers and records can be subpoenaed by the court. Police and prosecutors often make deals with witnesses, offering immunity from prosecution in exchange for testimony. Eavesdropping laws vary in every jurisdiction. In locations where there is no reasonable expectation of privacy, such as in a police car, in a police interrogation room, or in prison, the police have a right to secretly record you, and they do. Just watch the A&E TV network. If you enter a federal area such as a military base, a national park or Indian reservation, you have very few rights there. Exigent circumstances must exist in order to enter a home without a search warrant, like you are worried about someone's safety. Search warrant websites: ala.org/ala/oif/ifissues/USAPA Trio Tax Search.htm, USA Patriot Act Search Warrant at Libraries. aele.org/search1.html, can an officer search for and seize property to protect it? attorneyburbank.com/search_warrant.html, search warrants and the Fourth Amendment. Burbank Law Firm. criminal-law.freeadvice.com/arrests_and_searches. criminal-law.freeadvice.com/arrests_and_searches/police_search_warrant_limits.htm. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/legal_challenges_to_NSA_the_United_States en.wikipedia.org/wiki/search_and_seizure en.wikipedia.org/wiki/search_warrant en.wikipedia.org/wiki/warrantless_searches_in_the_United_States law.cornell.edu/s code/18/3105.html, persons authorized to serve search warrant law.cornell.edu/s code/42/2000AA.html, searches and seizures by government officers nalo.com/lawcenter/nc/article.cfm, search warrants, what they are and when they're necessary. searchandseizurelaw.com. Chapter 2. Deal with the law 2. In your house and the law. Cops can't enter your house unless they're involved in an imminent arrest from a public place or have a search warrant. The Fourth Amendment gives you a reasonable expectation of privacy in your own house. However, probable cause starts right outside of your door. If someone walking past sees marijuana plants in your yard, smells drugs in your house, or smells what they perceive to be the manufacture of methamphetamines, that's probable cause enough to get a warrant. In some cases, a warrant is not necessary because they see the violation from public, therefore it started in public, so they can proceed on with the arrest. In such cases, they can get you for probable cause without a warrant. If you see them coming to the door, don't answer it. If they just have probable cause without a warrant, they can't enter, but if they have a search warrant, they can break the door down. If you know they're coming, leave, go to your lawyer, then turn yourself in with him. It might avoid a search of your house. A person has a right to expect privacy in his home, therefore most wiretapping conversations are invalid in a court of law. By the law of curtilage, they can spy on you on your own property as long as it's out of the realm of your immediate dwelling, so they can hide behind some trees in a field you own and spy on you. Private places and businesses generally have the same protections as a private home. Police need a search warrant for many businesses, although they have warrantless rights to check out certain businesses like nightclubs, gun dealers, pawn shops, pharmacies, etc., generally any business that's regulated by the government. Public areas and businesses are fair game for cops to search. Cops are allowed to go into businesses to arrest people without needing a search warrant for entry. Remember, all search warrants must state specifically what they're searching for, the time the warrant is good for, and they aren't legally allowed to go beyond that scope. Even though the police will intimidate you, try to videotape the search. Cops sometimes plant evidence and destroy the contents of a house looking for evidence. Cops can sometimes convince judges to authorize no-knock forcible entry in cases of violent offenders and drug offenses where the people could have time to flush the evidence down the toilet if the cops knock politely and wait. If the cops serve a search warrant, they have access to your entire life and all your records in there, a veritable paper trail linking you to everything you've ever done. I know some people that rent a safety deposit box and hide all their important papers so that nobody can ever snoop on them even if they enter their houses. This especially applies to IRS cases. Don't allow cops into your home if you've got something to hide. Speak briefly from the door only, then leave. If you call the cops for anything, make sure you hide anything illegal before the cops come. If police have an arrest warrant and are at your door, tell them you're unarmed and that you're coming out with your hands up. Do so to lessen their right to search your grabbable area in your house and possibly stop them from seeing whatever is in plain view. They aren't allowed to search in other areas. Police are allowed to snoop through garbage put out for trash. Police can get a record of all your phone calls from the telephone company. Drinking alcohol and the law. The police don't like dealing with sloppy, boisterous drunks any more than most people do. If you get yourself in this condition in a public place, you're asking for trouble. If you get drunk in public, don't get involved in a disturbance. The drunk tank is the universal solution to disturbances involving drunks. If you're the type that gets drunk and rowdy, take a designated driver/caretaker along with you, someone who will promise the police that they will take you home and lock you up for the night. This doesn't always work, but it's worth a try. If you disturb the peace while drinking, you'll go in the drunk tank for the night. You might be charged for disturbing the peace, but it's so minor that they'll probably just release you in the morning with no charges. The legal drinking age in most places goes anywhere from 18 to 21. In Europe, it can go as low as 16. Don't operate a motorboat while drinking. There are water police in recreational areas. Don't buy alcohol for minors. Don't bootleg, sell booze from your house. dbw.ca.gov/aquasmart/html/alcohol_2.html, alcohol and boating, California. law.cornell.edu/topics/alcohol_tobacco.html. ou.edu/oupd/bac.htm, the police notebook. Arrest warrants and the law. If you receive a ticket or are arrested and either released with a court date and don't appear, failure to appear/FTA, or are found guilty in a trial, pay all fines and associated costs on time. If this is not possible, ask for an extension. A warrant will be issued for your arrest if you do not take care of traffic tickets on time, or in the case of convictions, if you don't pay assessed fines. If you're arrested and use the services of a bonding company or an attorney, follow their instructions while you are waiting for your case to be disposed of. You may be required to report weekly, prohibited from leaving town, etc. during this time period. If you violate these rules, the attorney or bonding company can cancel your bond and a warrant for your rearrest will be issued. Arrests on warrants can come at the most embarrassing times, such as at work, school, on a date, etc. And on top of all that, the bonding company or attorney isn't going to give your money back and you will have to go through the whole ordeal again. Once you are charged with an infraction or a crime, follow through with it in the proper manner. Never ignore these things unless it's a minor crime and you plan to move out of the state soon. They won't ever go away and they will always get worse. If police have an arrest warrant and are at your door, tell them you're unarmed and that you're coming out with your hands up. Do so to lessen their right to search your grabbable area in your house and possibly stop them from seeing whatever is in plain view. They aren't allowed to search in other areas. Some police departments list arrest warrants on their websites. Arrest warrant websites. 1 stpublicrecords.com/warrant.htm, do an arrest warrant search. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/warrant_left_law right-. freerecordsregistry.com, check warrant records. jurist.law.pit.edu. justia.com. questia.com/criminal_law. roamingerlegal.com. Chapter 3. Deal with the law. 3. Miranda rights and the law. If you're arrested, the police must read you your Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney to represent you, and if you cannot afford one, an attorney will be provided for you at no cost. A slight variation is: you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to consult with an attorney, and to have an attorney present both before and during questioning. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, one will be appointed by the court, free of charge, to represent you before any questioning, if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any question or make any statements. To secure a waiver of these rights, the following questions should be asked and an affirmative answer received. Do you understand these rights I have just explained to you? With these rights in mind, are you willing to talk to me now? Once you read your Miranda rights and the cops try to interrogate you, if you say you don't want to talk, they must cease immediately. This is your greatest weapon, silence. Don't let them intimidate you into incriminating yourself. They will often try to entice you by offering a deal, but they have no power to make deals, only the district attorney/prosecutor does. Once they get your confession, they will leave you to rot in the cell. They don't care about you and the so-called deal anymore. Waiving your rights means you understand you have the right to remain silent but choose to talk anyway in the hopes that they will go easier on you. abanit.org/public/criminal/miranda_rights.html crimelibrary.com criminal.findlaw.com/crimes/criminal_rights/criminal_rights_police/miranda.html Resisting arrest and the law. You're under arrest for resisting arrest. Don't ever push, shove, or hit a police officer. The police don't feel they should be hit for doing their job any more than the store clerk, doctor, or fireman. This will always get you a ride downtown. Help arrives quickly to these events. If you have a problem with an officer, pursue it through the proper channels. Police administrators don't want a problem officer around. Don't resist arrest. It will only get you in more trouble. Demand to know why you're being arrested if you haven't been told or don't understand. Resisting doesn't help your case whether you're innocent or guilty of the original charge. You will only be adding another charge, which means more money out of your pocket and more time in jail. There are two types of resisting arrest: using violence to try to get away, lying or using false identification cards. miamicriminal.html/disorderly.html, disorderly conduct. law.com. Police interrogation and the law. Cops have a legal right to lie to you during their interrogation, and if you're stupid enough to believe them and talk, then you're a sucker. There was a series of shows on the Discovery Channel about police interrogations. The technique is like this. Develop a rapport with the suspect. Let them say anything they want even if they lie. Don't challenge them. Leave, come back later to confront and challenge them. Lie if you think it will help you get them to talk. They watch body language and try to catch you in a lie. Firstly, you're under no obligation to talk. They will try to say it will go easier on you if you talk, but they just file the charges. It's the district attorney who decides if those charges are too harsh and won't stick, who bumps them down into lower charges as a rule. Sometimes the cops can charge you on a lower charge than they could, but often they don't. They just pile the charges on, leave it for the DA to investigate. Cops routinely lie to get you to cough up the truth, like tell you that you failed a lie detector test when you passed or it was inconclusive, tell you that one of your buddies ratted on you when he didn't, or tell you that someone saw you when they didn't, and if you're the sucker who decides to implicate yourself by making a statement in the mistaken belief that they will give you a break for coughing it up, they will just laugh at you and have contempt because you were so stupid you fell for their low-level tricks. My advice is to give them your name, address and SSN, and that's it. If you lie, they will either keep you until they verify your identity through some ID or someone in the community it's you, or if you've got a criminal record, chances are they will find your true identity when they run your prints through NCIC, National Crime Information Center, which is a database for most felony convictions and some misdemeanor convictions in the country, although some people slip through the cracks sometimes and get away, but not very often. Police have the right to say they have evidence against you when they don't, telling you your friends confessed, telling you that you have a psychobabble term called selective memory, threatening you with a much harsher sentence if you don't confess, etc. All polygraph-type machines are unreliable but used as a tool of intimidation. They measure anxiety only, not whether a person is lying. If they charge you with something, say I want to talk to a lawyer and don't say anything more. Ask if you're being charged for anything. If they say no, tell them I want to leave now. Get up and go. They have no right to stop you. If the police stop you anywhere and say they want to talk to you at the station, ask if you're being charged with anything. When they say no, I will not go. Walk away. The police don't make deals. Prosecutors do. If you're arrested, your case file goes immediately to the prosecutor and he investigates to see if he can make the charges stick. If you want to cop a plea, tell the cops you want a lawyer and then you'll speak to the prosecutor, aka the district attorney. The long and short of it is that you gain nothing by being cooperative with the cops if you've committed a crime. If you're a witness who wants to help the cops, that's a different story, but the further you get sucked into any situation, the greater likelihood you have of being charged with a crime. Some of the above info could be now compromised of the Homeland Security laws. cron.com/disp/story.mpl/space/5147677.html, Nowak testifies she was misled in police interview. Talking to the feds and the law. Title 18 U.S.C. 1001 makes it a federal felony if you lie to any federal investigators, so the logical conclusion is that most of the time, you will not gain anything by talking to federal law enforcement officers. Why put yourself in jeopardy of being charged for lying by talking to them? If they want to talk, whether you're being charged criminally for something or not, politely say no and leave it at that. You are under no obligation to talk to anyone. Tell them you want to exercise your right to stay silent and either want to call your lawyer or ask them to appoint one for you if you are being criminally charged, which the court will do.